This is the BMW X1 facelift, and it's got some subtle styling changes that bring it closer in line to its bigger siblings, the X5, the X6 and the X7. There are some updates on the inside too, but more importantly, there's BMW's 2-litre 4-cylinder diesel engine now in BS6, guys. Well, I'm going to drive it today to tell you what's new and what that new engine is like from behind the wheel. And now, those all too subtle styling changes. At the front, you'll notice the bumper is new and far more aggressive in its design, the round fog lamps being replaced by slimmer light bands. Then there are the headlamps, whose internals now remind you of the X5s. But the biggest change is the grille, which is now a single-piece unit and significantly larger and more angular, much like the one on the new X6. At the back, you'll find a lightly reworked bumper as well as revised LED tail lamps, but that's about it. If anything, the changes inside are even subtler. It feels a little richer thanks to embellishments like the double stitching on the dash, but overall quality is still a little lower compared to newer generation cars. There's a new gear lever that looks far more modern, there's now multicolor ambient lighting for the interior, and that's about it. There's also a newer version of BMW's iDrive infotainment system, but it's not the absolute latest one. And though this is an 8.8-inch touchscreen, its widescreen format makes it look a bit small. That said, the system packs in a lot of features, and overall the X1 is very well equipped. Though it has to be said, not as well equipped as the Volvo XC40. Moreover, owners will appreciate the class-leading rear seat space that's only accentuated by the huge panoramic sunroof. A tiny change in here is that you now get USB Type-C charging ports instead of a 12-volt socket for your devices. Also class-leading is the boot volume at 500 litres. But on to the big news, and that is BMW's revised 2-litre diesel engine. They've achieved BS6 compliance by using a combination of a diesel particulate filter or DPF and a selective catalytic reduction unit or SCR, and so next to the fuel filler cap you'll find an AdBlue filling port. But a move to BS6 tends to affect an engine's driving characteristics, so let's check that out in the real world. Now this is our first time experiencing the BS6 version of BMW's venerable 2-litre 4-cylinder diesel engine. And while the numbers of 190 horsepower and 400 Newton meters remain the same, the feel of this engine is just a little bit different. For a start, it's noticeably more refined, it's quieter at idle and when you rev it out, and then there's the power delivery. Power flows in a lot more smoothly this time around, and that characteristic punch that you used to get in the mid-range from BMW diesel engines has been dulled down significantly. Now, enthusiastic drivers might miss that about this engine, but fret not, because this is still a very, very strong motor. For instance, against our testing equipment, this BS6 X1 did 0 to 100 kph in 7.7 seconds, which is marginally quicker than the BS4 car, and the difference is even more in kickdown acceleration. And it must be noted, the BS4 car we tested had all-wheel drive. But the performance also has a little something to do with which mode you have the car set to. From coasting gently, all you have to do is flatten your foot, there's a slight hesitation from the gearbox, but then you are soaring ahead. And that is when you have the car in comfort mode. When you switch it to sport, responses are just electric. Now again, in the old car, switching from comfort to sport mode was like switching from day to night, but here the difference is a little bit more subtle. But it is definitely a difference, and you do feel a lot more responsiveness from this powertrain in sport mode for the engine and the gearbox. And speaking of the gearbox, this 8-speed torque converter automatic is really, really good. At low speeds it shuffles along nicely, and when you want to go faster, it doesn't really get in your way. It just gets along with it really smoothly and really quickly in the background. And well, apart from that, the BMW X1 is the excellent dynamic package you all remember so well. In fact, the suspension has been revised considerably, and the result is a slightly more compliant ride. Ride comfort is just superb with incredible bump absorption. especially on these 17-inch wheels. If you opt for the M Sport pack, you will get 18-inch wheels, and I suspect that will add a bit of a firm edge to the ride. Now, of course, there will be some that will lament the fact that this is a front-wheel drive BMW, but the simple fact is it absolutely wipes the floor with everything else in this segment when it comes to handling. And when I said front-wheel drive, I really meant it, because this car is no longer offered with all-wheel drive. All the variants in the range at present are currently front-wheel drive only. The steering too is just wonderful. It's got that great BMW sharpness, but it's also light enough at low speeds and gives you enough confidence at high speeds. It's just about everything you want, really. On to the prices. This S-Drive 20D X-Line variant costs a competitive 39.9 lakh rupees. And the range on the whole starts lower thanks to a new base model called the Sport X that costs 35.9 lakh rupees. It goes up to 42.9 lakh rupees for the diesel M Sport version, and that means despite all the updates, the whole range is, spec for spec, just 40 to 60,000 rupees more expensive than before. So the facelift has brought some crucial improvements to the X1, not least of all that engine. But what it remains is an excellent package that's spacious, comfortable, practical and great to drive. Now in terms of competition, the XC40 has switched to petrol only, and the GLA and the Q3 are due for all new versions in a little while. So for the moment, this diesel X1, well, it has the market all to itself.